Welcome back to Boson Buzz, where we make the tiny, universe-changing details of science feel huge. I'm Monty Molecule. Today's story starts with a problem so common, you've probably faced it yourself. A blurry photo. But this isn't a bad vacation snapshot. This blur was on a scientist's screen, and it was hiding the precise shape of a microscopic machine that breaks human hearts. Literally. For years, that fuzzy gray blob blocked the path to a cure. The question was simple, yet seemed impossible. How do you clear up a picture of something 10,000 times smaller than a human hair that never, ever holds still? The answer didn't come from a better lens. It came from a camera that does the impossible. It freezes a single moment in time so perfectly it can see the atoms. Let's uncover how this works. To understand the breakthrough, we need to understand the problem it was solving. Inside every one of your cells are trillions of tiny machines called proteins. They're not alive, but they might as well be. They spin, they twist, they grab molecules, they build structures, they send signals. They're the workforce of life, operating in a bustling, invisible city that is your body. But like any complex machine, sometimes one breaks. Its shape gets warped, or it gets stuck in the on position, and it starts causing havoc. In a specific and cruel form of heart disease, the broken machine is known as the Rogers protein. When it malfunctions, it essentially throws grit into the gears of heart muscle cells, causing them to stiffen and fail over time. To stop it, you need to understand it. You need to see its shape in perfect atomic detail, every bump, every groove, every moving part. That detailed picture is called a structure, and it's the ultimate blueprint for designing a drug. For decades, the gold standard for getting that blueprint was a method called X-ray crystallography. Think of it like this. You try to arrange millions of identical rogue proteins into a perfect repeating pattern, a crystal, like a diamond. Then you shoot X-rays at it. The way the X-rays bounce off the orderly array reveals the shape of each individual protein. It's a brilliant method, if you can get the crystal. And that was the wall. The Rogers protein refused to crystallize. It was too flexible, too dynamic, too stubborn. It was like trying to get a room full of hyperactive kittens to line up in a perfect frozen grid. Every attempt failed, leaving researchers with a cloudy solution and that infamous useless blur on their screens. They had the kitten, they just couldn't get its portrait. The breakthrough was a complete change in philosophy. Instead of trying to force the protein to hold a stiff, unnatural pose, scientists asked, what if we photograph it exactly as it is in the middle of its wiggly, jiggly dance? To do that, they needed to solve two problems. First, they had to stop the dance without disturbing the dancer. Second, they needed a camera that could see the dancer once it was stopped. Enter the hero of our story, the cryo-electron microscope, or cryo-EM. It doesn't look like a camera. It looks like a large, sophisticated refrigerator with a very serious mission. Its first job is the Great Freeze. Scientists prepare a tiny droplet of water containing millions of the rogue Rogers proteins. This droplet is placed on a small metal grid, thinner than a spider's web. Then, in a movement faster than the blink of an eye, a robotic arm plunges the grid into a bath of liquid ethane. This isn't your freezer's ice. This bath is at a bone-crushing minus 180 degrees Celsius, colder than the surface of Pluto. The freeze is so unbelievably fast that the water molecules don't have time to arrange themselves into the crystalline lattice of normal ice. If they did, the expanding ice crystals would shatter and crush the delicate proteins inside. Instead, the water undergoes vitrification. It solidifies into a state called amorphous ice, a perfectly clear glass-like solid. It's the difference between a pond freezing over with jagged, destructive ice and a pond's surface instantly turning into smooth, flawless crystal glass. Inside this transparent prison, each and every protein is caught mid-movement, frozen in a nanosecond, preserved in its natural floppy state. Time for these molecules has literally stopped. Now comes the picture. A cryo-EM doesn't use light. Light waves are too big and clumsy to resolve details at the atomic scale. Instead, it fires a beam of electrons, vanishingly small, charged particles, through the frozen sample. As these electrons pass through the frozen protein, they don't just fly straight through. They interact with the protein's atoms. They get scattered, their paths bent by this invisible landscape. On the other side of the sample sits an incredibly sensitive electronic camera, chilled to near absolute zero to keep its own noise down. It doesn't capture a shadow of the protein. It captures the intricate, beautiful pattern of how the electrons were scattered. But here's the catch. That single scattering pattern from a single protein is incredibly faint and messy. It's like trying to guess the shape of a complex sculpture from the shadow cast by a single flickering candle. The image is too noisy, too weak. This is where cryo-EM performs its second magic trick, the power of absurd numbers. The stage holding the frozen sample tilts automatically, taking another shot and another from dozens of slightly different angles. The machine does this tirelessly, for hours, sometimes days. It doesn't collect hundreds or thousands of these images. It collects millions, 5 million, 10 million. A blizzard of raw data, every snowflake a faint whisper about the protein's shape. You now have a mountain made of sand. A single grain tells you nothing, but if you have enough grains, you can find the common shape. This is where the final piece of the puzzle clicks in. The computer. All those millions of blurry, two-dimensional electron snapshots are fed into banks of powerful processors. Sophisticated software, a form of artificial intelligence, takes over. It's a master of pattern recognition. It aligns all the images. It groups together ones that show the protein from similar angles. It averages out the random noise, the visual static, and amplifies the consistent signal. Slowly, like a ghost materializing from fog, a three-dimensional shape begins to emerge on the screen. It starts as a vague, low-resolution cloud, but with more data and more computation, the cloud sharpens. Edges become defined. Twists and turns resolve. After this digital archaeology is complete, the blur is gone. In its place is a breathtaking three-dimensional model of the Rogers protein. You can spin it, zoom in, and explore it. You can see the helices that look like molecular springs, the sheets that form platforms, and most importantly, you can see the deep, hidden pocket that acts like a claw, the very part that does the damage to heart cells. This isn't an artist's impression. This is a direct, atomic-scale photograph built from millions of frozen moments. The impact of having this blueprint is immediate and revolutionary. The hunt for a cure transforms. It's no longer a blind search through a dark room. It's a targeted engineering challenge. Researchers anywhere in the world can download this structure from a free public database. They can use other supercomputers to simulate millions of potential drug molecules, digitally testing how each one fits into the rogue protein's claw. Does it block it? Does it jam the mechanism? They can look for the perfect chemical key or a piece of gum to stick in the lock. This process, which used to take years of lucky guesswork, can now start with intelligent design. Of course, turning a digital design into a safe, effective medicine is still a long, rigorous journey of testing in cells, animals, and eventually humans. But that first, most profound barrier, the barrier of blindness, has been shattered. The invisible has been made visible. The cryo-electron microscope isn't just a tool for one disease. It's becoming the standard way we map the machinery of life, from the viruses that cause pandemics to the complex receptors in our brains. It is giving us eyes where we had none. From an impassable blur to a navigable blueprint. That's the quiet revolution happening in labs right now. We're not just looking harder at the microscopic world, we've invented a new way of seeing it altogether, by mastering time and temperature to take a perfect, candid snapshot of life in motion. That newfound sight is turning guesses into strategies and mysteries into solvable puzzles. If you find it as thrilling as I do, that we can now photograph atoms to save lives, please help Boson Buzz grow. Smash that like button and subscribe for more adventures to the edge of what's possible. Until next time, have a safe and curious week.